In the late 15th century, the people of Europe had still much to learn concerning the world in which they lived. The navigators of Portugal had charted the coast of Africa down to the mouth of the Congo River. They were endeavoring to discover a sea route to India, the land of fabulous wealth. And so, aboard one of the King of Portugal's ships, we find a famous navigator, Bartholomew Diaz. On this journey into uncharted waters, a great storm was encountered, and his puny ship floundered in the trough of mighty waves. But by the grace of good fortune, he survived the tempest. And thus, 12 years before Christopher Columbus discovered America, Bartholomew Diaz was driven around the Cape at the southern end of Africa. The coastline of this unexplored land was the home of the most primitive of savage people, strandloopers, or beachcombers they were called, because they lived on shellfish and such other queer creatures as might be cast up by the sea. Diaz landed with a small party, and to express gratitude to the Almighty for their deliverance from the tempest and for the partial success of their enterprise, they erected a cross in accordance with Portuguese religious custom. Thus was the savagery of this untamed land first touched by a symbol of our civilization. Bartholomew Diaz never reached India. On a second voyage, 12 years later, he was lost with all his crew in a great storm on the very Cape route which he had so providentially discovered for the world. Not an unfitting grave for this great navigator. At this time, living a nomadic and carefree life, sheltered in the mountain fastnesses of the Cape, were bushmen, relics of the Stone Age. Brave and artistic little people, adorned with charms against witches. They believed in Kang, chief of the sky, and it is said that they prayed to the moon and the stars. Their principal weapons, wrought from crude materials, were the bow and poisoned arrow which they used for hunting game. These little people of Africa represented man in his most primitive form. Untouched by any civilizing influence, they were the embodiment of the spirit of a vast dark continent which medieval Europe imagined to be a land of mystery, in the center of which was a great kingdom of gold ruled over by Prester John. The sea route to India was gradually established, and the southernmost point of Africa, fittingly known as the Cape of Good Hope, became a welcome halfway house to English and Dutch mariners. For here fresh meat was obtained by trading with a race known as the Hottentots, people midway between the copper and iron ages. But cheerful. In addition to a weakness for strong drink, they were fond of thieving and were destined to constitute the white man's first native problem. European coinage had no value in their eyes. greater value was a piece of old iron, for they could work in iron, and a good spear meant more to them than the king's shilling. From the clear streams flowing beneath the mountain, fresh water could be obtained, and the watercress which grew in great abundance helped to restore health to scurvy-stricken mariners. These landing parties started South Africa's first postal service. Letters were collected and posted by them under a stone. Here they were picked up by members of the crew of the first passing ship. Like the game-crowded mainland, the islands lying off the coast of the Cape were filled with living creatures, and parties of ill-nourished mariners visited them to obtain fresh eggs, a rare delicacy after the hard rations aboard ship. Good supplies of food and a warm sun to comfort them, it is no wonder that among sailormen this friendly cape became a popular port of call. The sun-drenched subcontinent slumbered on, until one fair morning 3 ships arrived at its gateway, under the command of Johann van Riebeek, representative of the Dutch East India Company. The salute from the guns of his ships was civilization's challenge to savage southern Africa. The drowsy camp of the nomadic Hottentots was roused to new life when the party landed. Their curiosity thoroughly stirred, they came down to the sandy beach to greet the new arrivals. As a token of peace, presents were exchanged, and this pleasant introduction to a new world left a deep impression on Van Riebeek and his wife. He knew that strenuous and hazardous work lay ahead of him, but his ideals and ambitions lent strength to his purpose. These simple people would become his children. Under thoughtful guidance, they would develop into useful members of the new community, and the flag of his beloved Netherlands would be the guarantee of their protection. It was hardly strange that the first building to be erected by Van Riebeek in this remote corner of the dark continent should have been a fort. For despite the friendly attitude of the natives, there lingered in his mind when he called at the Cape for water. Van Riebeek's fort became the center of the Cape's first settlement, and his men set about the business of acquiring sheep and cattle by means of barter with the Hottentots, whose goodwill and quaint manners were at this time a source of pleasure to the new colonists. But there came a day when the sheep which had been bought from the Hottentots were to become the cause of the first tragedy in the new settlement. Van Riebeek's life was devoted to the development of the territory entrusted to his care. He created the first farms, and he planted the first fruit trees and vines, so that the ships on the route to India might re-victual at the Cape, finding there fresh fruit and vegetables. But as he worked and the settlement expanded, he saw the vast possibilities of this new land, and he persuaded the Dutch East India Company to encourage retiring officials to make their homes here, instead of returning to Europe. By this means, he established a permanent white settlement, and thus laid the foundation of a new nation. With patience and with kindness, he won the confidence of the Hottentots, many of whom by now had become the servants of the new colonists. He founded the Cape Colony, its gardens, its houses, its farms. All had their beginning in him. The free burghers worked hard, and soon their tables were laden with fruit, fresh vegetables, and delicacies of all descriptions. In his diary, the enthusiastic governor recorded that everything at the table was reared at the Cape, and the horseradishes grew well, glory be to God. For Van Riebeek, it was a happy moment when from his garden he brought to his wife the first Dutch rose grown at the Cape. A fragrant memory of a nation's founder. The settlement flourished. The Cape became an increasingly important station on the sea route to India. The Dutch East India Company was as active as ever, and in place of Van Riebeek's earthen-walled fort, a solid stone structure was erected and named the Castle. The population at the Cape was growing, and the garrison was increased. Smart officers and their modish wives were quartered in the castle. And in charge of the colony, we now find Simon van der Stel.
Also,
Building upon the foundations laid by Van Riebeek, Van der Stel turned his attention to the unexplored interior. On one journey of exploration, he entered this wild valley. It was the haunt of reptiles and dangerous animals, as was most of Africa at that time, but the fertile soil over which they roved seemed to Van der Stel land for men to cultivate and settle on. And he dreamed that here was country to be made fit for white people, who would build amidst its savage mountains a Rhineland of the south. Van der Stel's dream came true. Inspired by his enthusiasm, the farmers built elegant homesteads in the midst of great vineyards, orchards, and stately oaks. Under his energetic and enlightened direction, the Cape grew from a refreshment station for ships into a thriving and progressive colony. His own home he built in beautiful surroundings below Devil's Peak, on the lower slopes of Table Mountain, and he named it Constantia. All that he did bears the stamp of the great man working in truth and justice and zeal for his country and mankind. In the 20 years of his governorship, he left an enduring memory, particularly in the lovely village which he built in the wild valley. The colonists named it Stellenbosch, which means the Grove of Van der Stel. And in later years, he looked forward keenly to his visits to this village, when he drove through miles of vineyards to attend the annual fair with which the people celebrated his birthday. An important part of the celebrations was the shooting of the papagaï, a test of skill for the young men, who would step forward under the critical eyes of the young women and attempt to shoot off the tail of a wooden parrot. The best shot of the day was crowned king and had the pleasure of choosing his own queen. Such was life in the Cape Colony, whilst in Europe the nations were racked by wars. And in France, the ugly head of religious persecution reared itself. Many Huguenots, preferring exile to the sacrifice of their religious principles, thousands of them, the noblest citizens of France, fled into England and Holland. A number of these brave souls came to the Cape, and from them and the early Dutch settlers sprang the race of pioneer warrior farmers that became the advance guard of civilization in the hinterland of South Africa. Meanwhile, vast tracts of the hinterland remained unexplored by the Europeans. In the central areas and along the eastern seaboard, numerous native tribes were settled. They lived in neatly made grass huts, and they cultivated the surrounding lands. In these days, they were happy and peaceful. Early in the 18th century, we find William Adrian van der Stel in charge of the settlement of the Cape in place of his father, Simon, who had retired. French Hook Valley, the Huguenots had found a safe refuge and a new home. Their inherent love of the soil and expert knowledge of viticulture soon evinced itself, for they converted a wilderness into one of the colony's fairest gardens, and from the luscious grapes, wines of the rarest quality were produced. The two Van der Stels made an earthly paradise of the Cape, and as we wander through some of the stately homes built by the wealthier colonists, we sense the culture and breeding of the men who inspired and created them. The warm sun and productive soil brought forth each year a rich harvest of grapes, which was garnered by the slaves. These slaves were not unhappy. In the main, they were a cheerful and well-fed band of workers, devoted to their masters, and their happy nature found expression in music and song. Towards the end of William Adrian's period of office, there was an exodus of settlers who resented the unchecked activities of speculators. The brilliant work of the younger Van der Stel was overshadowed by this event, and many Dutch and Huguenot families participated in a great march to the north that was to make history. At about this time, the end of the 18th century, there sprang up in the eastern area a great native chief. His name was Chaka, and he founded the Zulu nation. Through his terrible cruelty and the fearlessness of his regiments, he became a powerful tyrant, a dictator without mercy. Chaka's regiments were merciless, and within the space of a few years, they annihilated numerous tribes and covered a pleasant land with smoking ruins. At the beginning of the 19th century, the Cape became a British possession, and the problem of its scattered communities fell upon the shoulders of the new administration. In the mountains of the Eastern Cape, known as the Winterberg, the emigrant farmers had made their homes. In defense of their homes, their cattle, and their very lives, these farmers had frequent skirmishes with marauding natives. And for these clashes, the government of the time was prone to blame them as the aggressors. The scattered remnants of Chaka's victims had formed themselves into tribes and had abandoned their erstwhile life of peace for ways of plunder and rapine, so that the farmers virtually lived with their guns in their hands. Misunderstood upon the one hand by their new government, and harried by savages on the other, it is not surprising that there grew up among them a bond of comradeship that was the awakening of a national spirit. A fresh epoch in South Africa's history was opened in the year 1820, when the British landed their first organized band of settlers on the sandy shores of Algoa Bay. There were 5,000 of them, selected from all walks of life: soldiers, sailors, farmers, blacksmiths, people who were prepared to face life in a new colony rather than continue to live in the misery of the Depression in Britain which followed the Napoleonic Wars. Each group was met by the acting governor, Sir Ruthven Donkin, the founder of Port Elizabeth, whose kindly tact and sound advice was to guide them in the early days of their endeavors. The British settlers were taken to their allotted farms by friendly Dutch farmers, and as they left, the booming surf sounded a farewell, leaving them to work out their destiny with their new neighbors in a strange land.
Wonderful animal, the horse. Not so. For his part, he gives me loyal service and friendship. For my part, I feed him well, I nurse him, and one day I will pension him. I wonder what the British government is going to do about it.
The British government?
Yes. Is he not a slave?
Come, Mr. Retief. Now you're poking fun at the new Anti-Slavery Act. You don't mean that.
Not fun, my good friend. If you mean that I do not value my horse as much as I do my other servants, it is not so. Both depend on me as I depend on them. And they are part of my modest riches.
But you'll not defend the right to possess a fellow human being?
Possess. Possess. What a great big mountain you are making of that little molehill of a word. Possessions they are. For they are often held under bonds and mortgages. And many of us will be ruined when they are taken away from us.
There is to be compensation.
Compensation? See, I take away your riding crop. And I give you back a twig. Is that compensation? £3 million was the Cape government's assessment of the value of our slaves. 1.25 million, says His Majesty's government. No, that is insufferable. Even your own people in the colonies are protesting. Men of spirit, like Louis Trichardt, are moving north to escape from a government which heaps one injustice upon another. Come, my friends, these matters are political, not personal. And our horses grow impatient.
Peter, this. Read this.
This is outrageous.
How much longer are we going to stand this?
How much longer?
Are they sleeping? Very well, all right, Mina, then you may go. Now I'm going to show you what the mail card brought today. What do you think of this?
Oh, that's tip-top. Makes one think of Yule logs and mistletoe and all that sort of thing.
And to think that these are the first real dollies we've ever been able to give our girls. How they love them.
Nonsense. The musical box will be the hit of the day. You mark my words. I say, give us a tune.
All right, little boy.
Reminds one of England at Christmas time, doesn't it? Gaunt trees and snow-shrouded hills.
Several things have turned up. Let's see.
Children!
Any easier? What does it matter now? It failed me when I needed it most. My son dead. My home destroyed. Come, man. That's not the spirit. There's no right arm on the border that can be stirred, whilst the horrors of last night remain unavenged.
I think I could manage to carry her, Mrs. Ortiz.
Please, please, take her inside.
This is a treacherous business. What can you expect? The troops can do nothing. We are forbidden to form commandos and...
And my friends, it is over a year since this colony was overrun and devastated by natives. In the hope that the savages will become civilized, treaties were drawn up, giving them back their land and allowing them to live under their old tribal laws with missionaries as their guides. This is how the native chiefs have honored their treaty. Burgher and settler are being ravaged by these thieves, even as they are trying to build up homes that were destroyed during the Black Christmas. No longer can we live in peace and security. The government has failed us. And tomorrow we trek into the land laid waste by Chaka. There we shall endeavor to establish an independent community with freedom, peace, and justice for all. We are quitting the fruitful land of our birth, in which we have suffered enormous losses and continual vexation. We are entering wild and dangerous territory. But it is better to face danger than to be stricken down unsuspecting like this. realize, my dear, there are dangers, grave dangers ahead.
We all know that, Peter.
And you are not sorry to leave our home?
Our home, Peter. Our home lies ahead, not behind.
There, my dear, you have voiced the spirit of this trek.
Ever since the arrival of the British settlers, the greatest cordiality has existed between us. To you and your expatriated countrymen, we present this holy book as a farewell token of our esteem and a heartfelt regret at your departure.
Mr. Thompson, for the kind words and thoughts of the people of Grahamstown, I sincerely thank you. And although parted by distance, I hope we shall still remain friends.
Why does England refuse to recognize Farewell's treaty with Charter? It seems to me that England doesn't want any more colonial hair on her fox.
Hello, here's Ogle coming in. Hello, old Rip Van Winkle.
Hello, Alfred. And Pickman.
Hello, Ogle.
And you too, Dick King. Hello, Bigger.
Welcome home, Ogle.
Say good morning, Mr. Ogle.
Well, well, William Wood, you young rascal.
Any luck?
Not much. The rivers were flooded, lost half my baggage.
What's His Majesty Dingaan doing?
That old scoundrel seems to be getting modern ideas. Wouldn't let me have any ivory unless I paid for it in guns and powder.
But you didn't let him have any.
Not exactly. He kept one of my guns all the same. Just a mark of esteem, you know.
If Dingaan's warriors learned to shoot, we and the whole Cape might as well pack up our belongings.
Talking of the Cape, a big party of Dutch immigrants is making its way towards Natal.
That probably means we'll be crowded out here. That's good news. I, for one, will feel safer with a few reliable neighbors about. And these frontier Boers are the right neighbors for us. and for Dingar.
Yes, all
By
right.
Jiminy, you're right.
Hurry up, young Kruger. Don't let the lead get cold.
Such a pile of bullets, Uncle. Shall we not make some loopers now?
Why, Paul? A sturdy young chap like you shouldn't need slug to get his meat. The bullet goes straighter and carries further, you know.
Not so many as with loopers, Uncle.
Oh, that's another matter. I hope we shall live in peace in the land we're going to. They say the Zulu and Matabele are mighty races.
But will they leave us alone then, Uncle?
We must respect their claim to what is theirs and be prepared to defend what is ours. But remember, boy, when you have to resort to the gun against your fellow man, there is no end to the bitterness.
I hope we shall have no more troubles like in the colony, Uncle.
Yes, and for the sake of you youngsters, our new state must not be founded on blood feuds, if we can avoid it.
What shall we call our new state, Uncle?
Who knows, boy? Pitratief has set his heart on a town. We are following Potgieter to the north. Our elephant hunters tell of a wonderful country there. They call the Transvaal.
Transvaal. That's a nice name, Uncle.
like fever again.
Yes, he should never have left the wagons.
And I think you will agree that in the work of building a republic and framing its laws, we could find no man better suited to be our leader than Pienaar.
My friends, I want to thank you for having elected me your leader in this great endeavor to find freedom. We left the colony in open day and made no secret of our intention to free ourselves from the oppression of an unsympathetic government and from the odium cast upon us by philanthropists misguided by mischievous negrophiles. The soil of the colony is stained with the blood of our people and that of the British settlers. Hundreds of homes are in ruin. In our newly found freedom, I am determined that we shall uphold the just principles of liberty, and condemning slavery, shall form laws and regulations to suppress crime and to preserve proper relations between master and servant. With a firm reliance on this holy book and a just and merciful God, whom we shall always fear and humbly endeavor to obey, we can go forward with confidence to the establishment of our new home.
British, our flag.
And if you believe in him and obey his precepts, you will gain life everlasting.
Uma ukholwa yena walalela imithetho yakhe uzakwemukelisa impilo yomphakathi.
Uthi kambe yinye inkosi na?
Do you say there is but one God?
Yes.
Uthi kukhona isithunzi esibi sikagovana esichingisa abantu na?
Do you say there is a devil?
Yes.
Uthi lapho kukuhle khona kambe kuyabahle, lapho kukubi khona kuyababi na?
Heaven for the good and hell for the wicked?
Yes.
Uyabona lapha kukhona isikhulu engathi kasibulawe, ngathi akube yiso isithunzi esibi sikagovane esokwemukela bonke abantu abafa benza imisebenzi emibi, kepha ke abantu bami abasahambayo baziyinye inkosi.
Over there is a chief whom I put to death. Him I made the devil chief of all wicked people who die. But my people who live believe that there is only one God of the living.
Mina, leyo nkosi, sengikutshelile engikwaziyo.
I am that God. I have now told you my belief.
It will take weeks to get all our wagons and people over these mountains. afraid we shall have to break up here. It has taken 2 days to get 3 families over the mountains, and much valuable time is being lost.
But you're not going on without us, Peter.
I'm going ahead with a number of the men, sufficient to make a brave show before being gone. Your help is needed here.
Take me with you, Father.
You can't take him. No, not the 2 of you.
If I can help you, I can speak Zulu. Mother, let me go.
There won't really be any danger, my dear. And the boy may be useful.
Far be it from me to doubt your judgment, Peter.
Oh, thank you, Mother.
We must split up, Marit. You pick out a small party to accompany me to Port Nassau. We take 4 wagons with us. The others can follow over the mountains and wait in the foothills until I return.
Right. I'll see that it's done.
Joubert. Did you find them?
Yes, Sir George, at the foot of the Drakensberg Mountains.
And their answer?
I brought back a few slaves, but the majority of them refused to leave their masters.
Yes, but the people themselves, what do they say?
They will never return.
If I am successful with Dingaan, I intend calling on you again. Perhaps we can unite for our mutual welfare. We have no desire to isolate ourselves. There would be our highway to the outside world, to commerce, prosperity, and independence.
Mr. Retief, I hope you will not place too much reliance on Dingaan's word, and be on your guard wherever you move in his territory.
Thanks, Mr. Bigger, but we can look after ourselves. Although, I could almost wish for an older man to interpret for me.
Why not take Halstead? He speaks Zulu like a native.
If he'll come, I'll take him.
Oh there, Halstead. Come here, Mr. Retief wants you.
I'm leaving today for Dingaan's kraal, and would like you to go with me as an interpreter.
All right, I'll go with you.
Thanks, Halstead.
When they get to know me better, Halle, I feel sure that my work will return at least some reward. But there are times when I feel the futility of it all, particularly when I see that scarred hill and think of the horrors perpetrated by Dingaan.
You know, Dingaan became king by murdering his brother Chaka, and he has kept his people in subjection by the same cruel methods as Chaka used. Why worry about salvation for such a monster?
It is not of him I'm thinking, but of the poor people who suffer under his tyranny. Apart from his influence, they are happy and simple. Surely there must be some good in them.
Maybe, but fear and superstition keep them in subjection.
Superstition, Halle. That's what we have to break down here. Then we shall get results.
Ungunani lapha mfukazana na.
Nkosi abelungu sebefikile.
Tshetsha ubize ibutho libe linye lize lapha liphelele.
Bonya.
That must be Mr. Retief. Come, Halle, we must meet him.
My companions at the Tugela drift, and came on with this small party, as I felt that Dingaan might misconstrue a display of force.
In a way, I think you were wise, but Dingaan is fond of show. You observe he's preparing a dance for your benefit. It is the usual custom.
He's reminding us that if your mission is a peaceful one, then your weapons must be left outside the kraal.
It is a point of etiquette with them, Mr. Retief. Leave the guns with your servants.
Right. Sann.
The king is waiting.
Please present our greetings to the king.
I agree.
What a relief this silence is, after the noise of the dawn.
Oh, I like them best when they're making a noise. It means they're not up to mischief.
Mawungase ukwenze yoku okushoyo uyakholwa impela ukuthi yisihlobo sakho ngoba lo mhlabathi owucelako yakukunikela wona.
The king says he is inclined to cede the territory to you, but as a sign of your sincerity, he desires you to recover for him some cattle that were stolen by people who are wearing European clothes. If you do this, you will have good reason to know that he is your friend, and he will grant you the land for which you ask.
I will do as the king wishes, thus proving my friendship. But I would ask him to let several of his men accompany me, that they may bear witness that his cattle were not stolen by my people.
Ngiyavuma ukwenzwa okufunwa udinga. Ngizozilanda lezi inkomo ezithonjiwe. Ngimkhombisa ukuthi sizihlobo zakhe. Kodwa sengithi sokungathi akuhambe nabantu abakhe abayingosana kuze basifakazele ukuthi lezi inkomo azithonjwanga ngabakithi.
Hamba ukhethe abantu abazahamba nabelungu.
Please thank the king.
Ngiyathokoza Nkosi.
Halstead says here that Piet Retief has recovered Dingaan's cattle from Chief Sikonyella. That's the kraal where I saw 1 or 2 missionary natives. Those fellas wear old European clothing and must have been in the raid when the cattle were taken.
Well, if that's the case, Mr. Sikonyella won't last long after Dingaan hears of it.
Well, my lad, see that Dingaan gets those presents safely. And if Mr. Retief turns up whilst you're there, wish him the best of luck.
I'll not forget, Mr. Argo. Goodbye to you, sir.
Goodbye, Mama.
Cheerio, youngster.
Look out for the crocs when you cross the Tugela.
You leave that to us. Goodbye.
Good luck to you, lad.
Have you put plenty of food in the saddlebags, Toss?
Yeah, I want.
Good. We'll be hungry before we get there.
My old friend, what is troubling you? Retief, we can't spare you. I am a sick man, and my days are numbered. Let me, with 3 or 4 other men, take the cattle to Dingaan. The nation needs you, and it needs our best men who go with you now. It is not wise to put such a large proportion of our strength into Dingaan's power.
My old comrade, your courage does you credit, but I promised to return the stolen cattle to him. And as your leader, he will expect me to deliver them personally. Perhaps it is as well that the pick of our fighters go with me. But have no fear. He isn't difficult to handle.
Dabazi. Bathengiza. Ubakhonzela. Abasesibubulungu. Kukhona isiphiwo engithi yisona oyosithanda kakhulu. Manje-ke Ndabazi, kuhle nangibuya kumngane wami umfundi. Balasela. Bozan macho. They appear to be having a regular spring cleaning down there.
They're preparing to give Mr. Retief and his friends a special dance, I expect.
Right. Abelungise bekulindele indaba ezinhle.
Bayetheni yapha kumina.
Wonya.
The usual request, Mr. Retief. Our arms must be left outside.
Then, side arms against the stockade.
Ngiyamemezela ngithi ngiyamabela uPiti nabakubo lonke lelizwe elisuka kothukela lize liphonseke emzimvubu libuye lisuke olwandla libangele ngenhla kuze kume labathanda khona lelizwe nilinika bona ngokuphela ngokuqina
Ngithi uzwile Nkosi ngabezitha.
Yebo, kunjalo kulothiwe.
The king fully understands all that is written.
Ake nihlale niphumule ngiyabona ukuthi niphuma kude nikhatheye.
You have traveled far and are weary. Now you must rest, and my soldiers will entertain you.
Thank the king, and tell him I will be pleased to accept his kind offer.
Siyabonga Nkosi. Ngiyosithokozisa ukubasibona ukuthi ubhidwele butho lapho.
Look out, them!
Dear God in heaven.
Daniel? What is it?
Limes, I think. Probably out to the kettle. I'll go and see.
Wait. Wait, Daniel. Listen.
My God!
Leave me, Daniel. I'm too weak. But save him. Promise me you'd save our child.
Mary.
Promise, Daniel. Oh!
Mary.
For God's sake, Daniel, run and warn the other lot.
Attacked alone. They're dead. All dead.
But what of Retief and his men?
Not one has returned. We know now. They must be dead.
Dear God. Peter.
My friends, it is with sore heart that we are gathered here. The will of the Lord be done. 600 of our party have been murdered in cold blood. Our cattle and horses have been stolen. Disease is breaking out on every side of us. We are now a mere remnant, overwhelmed by tragedy. There is only one course left open to us, and that is to return to our homes.
Our homes! Our homes! Were they not burnt down by the... If we go back now, it is back to humiliation, where once we were respected. We have paid for this land with the blood of our people. Now you tell us to return. Let those 600 who are lying quiet in the blood-stained soil of this land of weeping cry shame upon everyone who talks of return.
But the government said that we can have our farms back if we return.
We shall not go back to the bondage of poverty. We have nothing more to lose except our soul. There is not one of us but has some tale of loss and of sorrow. Therefore, let our common bereavement unite us and give us strength in this sad hour. The beautiful land of Natal, named so in honor of our Lord Christ, has spelled only death to us. But let those who turn faint-hearted understand that we, the women, will never consent to leave this country until our dear ones and the innocent blood of 200 children has been avenged.
Solemnly vow that should the Lord be pleased to grant us victory, we will raise a house to the memory of his great need, and the day of victory will henceforth be celebrated to the honor of God.
Take up your positions at the gate and hold your fire until the last moment. On no account must any man move from his post without order. This is our day of reckoning. And remembering our vow, we will break the power of this cruel tyrant and make the country safe for ourselves and others. Now, to your post, and God be with you. Guzman, Lange, keep your men steady now. Do not give the order to fire until they are within good range. We must reserve our powder. You, Lotman, take charge of the line facing the hills. Lange, you take the donga. They are throwing out their horns for attack. Most of you men have faced the Matabele. These Zulus are just as merciless.
Whatever! Whatever! Whatever!
Steady, men. Let them come.
Bad right.
Not finished yet. Reloader and stand by.
Our brave fighters. Our brave fighters.
That whistling means that now they'll be coming like the wind. Hold your gun steady.
I know, my son. It's in a demora.
They can't have many assegais left. I hope not. Our powder's getting low.
To make an opening. For your horses!
Andres Pretorius. He was a really great man. After he led our people out of Natal, he guided them wisely in the task of founding our two republics. As a fighter, he won for us peace. His wisdom helped us to our independence. Those were the two things for which we came so far and endured so much. And someday, perhaps my son will do just such wonderful things for our people here and in the Transvaal.
Is the Transvaal very big, Mother?
Yes. It stretches from the Vaal River way north to another big river called the Limpopo.
Oh, it must be the biggest country in this world.
No, my boy. The biggest country in the world is the land of dreams, and that's where you're going now.
Good night, my son.
Good night, Mother.
Your turn now.
That's a pretty stone. Let me have a look at it.
This is a beautiful diamond, Mr. Van Niekerk. And worth at least £500. £500? Where this comes from, there must be many more. £500?
President, we have been quarreling over the land left us by our father.
My boy, where harmony and concord reign, there God bestows his blessing.
But when our father died, he said that the farm was to belong to both of us equally. And now Hendrik here wants to divide the farm so that he gets all the water.
But you get the best land. Isn't that better than water?
Ah. His Honor the President shall decide.
You are the elder brother. You shall divide the farm. But your younger brother shall have the first choice.
discovered in the Transvaal. Ounces of gold crushed from every ton of rock.
Riche filons d'or découverts en Afrique du Sud. Gold auf der Straße im Transvaal.
Millions of capital and men of all nations are pouring into the Witwatersrand gold fields.
I stand before you here in order once more to take upon myself the government of the country. And in obeying the voice of the people, I believe that I am doing the will of God. My earnest endeavor will be none other than to keep in view the welfare of the people and the progress, prosperity, and independence of the country. When I look at your faces, I see so many who have struggled, prayed, and fought with me for the land of our abode and of our independence. So many others, alas, we shall see no more amidst our ranks, for their bones mark the long, long trek that has led us to this far distant land. They have striven and fallen in a noble cause, in the struggle of a small race to maintain itself. God has led us through wonders and miracles, and from weakness to strength. Let us therefore, with strengthened faith, look to the past, taking from it whatever is good and noble to build our future on. And let us prove our gratitude by uniting to stamp out discord.
Why, the gold mines have made the Transvaal rich. And if my ideas of union under the British flag are to be realized, the Transvaal must come in. But how to achieve this without violence, when Kruger insists on maintaining that four-tracker republic? If only we had a Johannesburg, then we would have a united South Africa from the Cape to the Zambezi. We humans may divide this country, but nature does not. Why, if we were to go up in a balloon, how ridiculous it would appear to see all these states divided.
remember, boy, when you have to resort to the gun against your fellow man, there is no end to the bitterness.
Accepted my invitation to meet President Kruger personally, nothing stands in the way of a friendly discussion.
The situation in the Transvaal is very serious, Your Honor. What will happen if the conference fails?
That may lead to war. But we in the Free State will leave nothing undone to bring the two parties together and preserve peace for South Africa.
I desire that Your Excellency should kindly take into consideration that thousands of people of all nationalities are swarming into the Transvaal goldfields. The Dutch population of the Republic is small and is in danger of being literally swamped by the foreign element. I am willing to make concessions wherever possible, excepting on points that touch the independence of the Republic.
I have mentioned the case of the Outlanders first, for if this question can be settled in a satisfactory manner, it is my conviction that the present tension between Her Majesty's government and the South African Republic will be greatly lessened. The demands of the Outlanders on the Rand are such.
Ladies and gentlemen, grievances in a civilized community must be mended constitutionally by power of the vote. But how can we hope to redress our wrongs if the right to elect in the most important legislative body of this country, the first rod, is denied us? What we must insist upon more firmly than ever is our right to be treated on a footing of absolute equality with the older Boer population in the matter of votes.
Never.
The conference is absolutely at an end, and there is no obligation on either side arising out of it.
It's not the vote you want. It's my country.
good friends, I hope.
May not lose sight of the past. Therefore look into the past for all that is to be discovered there, which is good and beautiful. Form your ideals upon it, and try to realize those ideals in the future.